Yo, how's it going, guys? So today is a big day, and this is a day that a lot of you guys have been waiting for, because today we're going to be adding some fish to the Super Simple Reef. So I've come to Tanked Up Marines to pick up the fish that I have wanted for a long time. I've wanted these fish since they first got unveiled a couple of years ago. Now these have got them in stock, and they're going to be going into the Super Simple Reef, and they're going to be pride of place. They're going to be the only fish I add to this aquarium. This rack right here contains all of the clownfish that are in Tanked Up Marines that they're potentially breeding and other things like this. And in this one down here, there are some Mocha Storm clowns. Now there's one just over there, and there's another one somewhere else. Now, the Black Storm clowns I've been after for ever since that they very first came out. Ever since Sea and Reef first introduced the Black Storms, I needed them. I had to have them, but it's taken until now for me to be able to get them. Now they're Mocha Storms, but I'm not picking those up today. I'm going for the Black Storms, and I'm going to get Tom to go and catch them out of the main display. Alright, so we're back home now, and now it's time to add the fish to the aquarium. So as this is a sort of like a setup demo video, I'm going to show you how to put the fish in the aquarium as safe as possible. So in this bag here, we've got my little darlings, we've got my little Black Storms. I have wanted these for so long. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this container. This container is what we're going to be acclimating our fish in. So we're going to take our fish out of the bag. Well, it's double bag. So then, and what we're going to do is we're going to throw some of the water that these fish have come in into this container. So, just so that we're not splashing around and causing too much of a mess. There you go. Now what I actually like to do is to have a very minimal amount of water in this container so that the acclimation process is a little bit faster. And also so I don't have to use loads of my own water. Alright, so that should do it. So I'll put the clowns there. Now what we need to do is we need to start adding water from this tank into this container so the clowns can start to get used to the water parameters in this tank nice and slow. We don't just want to throw them in, because it's a bit like, best way I can explain it is imagine you're dead warm, really nice and warm, and somebody throws you into an icy pool. That shock in some cases could kill you, and that is the same for these fish. You don't want to shock them to new water parameters, you just want to slowly get them used to it. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to take a normal length of just airline hose that you'd have, you know, for your air pump or whatever, and we're going to tie a knot into it, just like that. But we're not going to make it a full tight knot, we're just going to loop it a little bit. This is going to control our water flow, this knot. So we'll put the pipe into our tank, and then we'll take this end and just give a quick suck on the end, and then that will start pulling water through. Then what we need to do is start tightening the knot until the flow slows right down to just a nice drop like that. So you can see, we've just got a nice amount of water, just drip, 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 drip. So now we're just going to set that into the bucket and we're just going to leave it for about 40 minutes to an hour just to give the fish chance to get used to this tank water.
1 hour later!
Alright, so that's the acclimation process complete. The fish have now been subjected to the water from my tank slowly but surely over the past hour. It's just been nicely trickling in. They're very active, the fish. They look okay. They're not being sluggish. They're not being lethargic or anything like that. Nice and active, so they're ready to go into the tank. Now before we add the fish to the aquarium, we're going to be adding some bacteria to the tank. Now this is the bacteria that is going to consume the ammonia that these fish produce. Now if there wasn't any bacteria in this tank to consume that ammonia, the ammonia can build up and build up and build up to the point where it can become very, very toxic to the fish and even kill them. And that can happen in a very short space of time when it comes to ammonia. So by adding the bacteria straight away, this bacteria is going to start consuming the ammonia that they produce right away, and they're never going to be subjected to any levels of high ammonia, and it's not going to harm them in the slightest. So if you're starting your tank off for the very first time, like I said in the previous video, there's different ways on which you can cycle a tank. This is always the approach that I take. I always add the bacteria to the tank, then add the fish. Right, so that's both of the fish. Now it's time to put them into the tank. So it's been about 2 weeks now since I released the super simple setup video where we set up this aquarium. Now in that 2 weeks, as you can see, I've been a little bit busy. I've started to add corals to the system, and I've also added fish. Now I wouldn't have been able to do that if I would have set up this tank in a traditional way. I would still be sitting looking at an empty system. Now what I mean by a traditional way is where you have to wait for bacteria to first of all come into existence and then get to a large enough population to be able to consume the amount of ammonia that your tank produces. Now you do this in certain ways, like say for example you can add ammonia itself to the tank, or you can add something like a raw prawn, or you can do something which is called ghost feeding. Now ghost feeding is where you, in essence, feed the tank with the amount of fish food that you would expect to feed the fish in the aquarium, but there isn't any fish. So what that does is it means the fish food stays in the aquarium and it breaks down, and as it breaks down it becomes ammonia. This ammonia then triggers the population, the growth of bacteria that is going to consume it. Now, as you can imagine, this is a sort of like a very time consuming process, because first of all, you've got to wait for that fish food to start to break down and become ammonia. Then you've got to wait for the bacteria to come into existence. It doesn't even exist at the moment. There's no bacteria in your system at all. Soon as ammonia goes in, it triggers that growth. But then you've got to wait for the bacteria to get to a large enough population. One bacteria is not going to do it. You're going to need hundreds, thousands, millions of bacteria in here. So you've got to wait for the bacteria to get to that large enough population to be able to consume the amount of ammonia that your tank is producing. So what I've done is I've sort of like cut that section out. I've added the bacteria to the aquarium straight away. Now that has given me the ability to, in essence, put things into the tank straight away because this bacteria needs food. Now think of the bacteria as your first livestock. Your fish are not your first livestock. Your corals, your cleanup crew, they're not your first livestock. The bacteria is. And bacteria needs food just like your fish do, just like your corals do, and just like your cleanup crew do. So by adding the bacteria in straight away and then also adding my fish or my corals or both in straight away, I'm instantly providing that bacteria with an ammonia source and it's going to feed on it straight away. This then means that the ammonia level isn't going to go up. I've not got to wait for everything to come into existence and population. That means I can move forward with this tank a little bit faster. Now the cycle is still the same. The cycle is just as it is. If you've seen the first video and you've looked at stage 1 of this, everything's still the same. So the ammonia did go up ever so slightly, but there was enough bacteria in this aquarium to keep it to non-toxic levels. So the ammonia went from 0.001, which is basically 0. It never goes below. So it never goes to 0.000 on the Senai. So I'll tell you about the Senai in a minute. It went from 0.001 to 0.020. Now, if you was to use a traditional test kit, for example, a Salifert, then that doesn't give you a reading until your ammonia reaches 0.25. And that is when it's looking to start getting toxic. So anything below that, you're fine. And obviously with me being at 0.020, it was basically undetectable on a normal test kit. Now, I've decided to put the Senai in this tank because I just love how easy it is. I don't have to get the test kits out. I don't have to mess about. I just put it in, I leave it in, and it just gives me the readings on my phone or on my computer, wherever it needs to be. And I can keep an eye on the tank and make sure everything is working well. Now, I'm very confident in this method. Every single reef aquarium that I've set up has been with this method. And you've got to imagine that if I wasn't confident in this approach, would I really add an 800-pound pair of black storm clownfish? I wouldn't, would I? I would put something in very, very cheap because if it died, then it won't be too bad. But 800 pounds? I'm in essence putting my money where my mouth is here, aren't I? So, you know, I truly do believe in this approach. Now, this is going to be heavily deliberated in the comment section. I know it, because there's definitely a 50-50 split between whether you should do it the way that I'm doing it right now or whether you shouldn't. But the choice is yours. The best thing to do, and I've always said this, is learn and understand before you do anything. Have a look at both sides of the track and think to yourself, which side do you want to be on? And go with it. You don't have to do it this way. You can do it a traditional way if you feel more comfortable with that. Now, over the next few videos that we're going to be putting out, I'm really just going to be giving you updates on the tank, and I'm also going to be answering your questions. So if you've got questions about the setup process of this system, or if you've just got questions in general, what I'll be doing from each previous video, I'll be pulling out a select few questions, and in the next video, I'll be answering them, give you a little bit of a shout out, and hopefully that will help you guys who are watching these videos grow and establish a absolutely stunning reef. So guys, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next videos on this tank. And also, I've got a new tank on the way. Now this tank is going to be sort of like the polar opposite to this one right here. It's going to have a sump, it's going to have a skimmer, it's going to have a refugium, it's going to have all of those different things. So if you want to see the other side of the scale, if you want to see a tank with all of those bits on it, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and press the bell so you don't miss that tank. I'm very, very pumped. So keep your eye out for the next video on this tank where I'll be answering your questions and giving you a bit of a tour around. Guys, thank you so much. See you all soon.